And here we come to the forgotten child of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I don't dislike the Incredible Hulk as much as some other people do, but the flaws that were there 10 years ago are still present today. And age, unfortunately, has not done this film any justice. The Incredible Hulk is directed by Louis Leterrier, who had directed the Transporter films and eventually went on to direct Now You See Me. In this film, Edward Norton plays Bruce Banner and the Hulk, who would later be replaced by Mark Ruffalo in the Avengers and the other MCU films. The best thing that this film has going for it is that it is not an origin story. Rather, it brushes you up on the Hulk's origin in the first 5 minutes of the opening credits. And instead the film focuses more on the werewolf story of Bruce Banner trying to deal with being the Hulk, trying to prevent himself from transforming and trying to find a cure. While I've always found this to be an interesting angle with the Hulk, and it's pulled off far better here than the 2003 Ang Lee, Eric Bana film, which this was originally meant to be a loose sequel to. But I'm also someone that agrees that the Hulk is better as a supporting character, especially when he's brought into a team environment like the Avengers or in Thor Ragnarok. In those films, you can just focus on the Hulk smash green monster, where the guy is just running around, punching and destroying things. And that's really what people want when they go to a Hulk film. It is really interesting going back to this and seeing how much more serious this film is and how it treats Banner and the Hulk, compared to the more comedic tone and I guess fun version of the character that we see later on. Granted that this film and most of Phase 1 of the MCU is very much about Marvel Studios finding their footing, where we're getting introduced to characters that we're going to fall in love with later on. And I will admit that there are some attempts at humour in this film, but they do feel a bit more shoehorned in compared to the more naturalistic approach to humour that is developed later on in the MCU. The plot is fairly simple. It's the Hulk running away from the military, hot on the trail of William Hurt's General Ross, who later resurfaces in Civil War. I've always enjoyed the first hour of this film more than the second half, which kind of devolves into a lot of CGI action. Getting to see Banner try and make sense of the Hulk and find a cure is executed well here, as we get the not so subtle Reservoir Dogs references with Mr. Blue and Mr. Green. What's great about this film is we only have to wait about 20 minutes for some Hulk action to kick in. And it's really great that all the transformation scenes are treated like Bruce Banner trying to transform into a werewolf. And our first confrontation with Emil Blonsky, played by the incredible Tim Roth, keeps the Hulk in the shadows before eventually revealing himself. It's very fun and exciting, and it helps build up the suspense of seeing the Hulk compared to the more full-blown set pieces that we see later on in the film. Which, in a world now where Marvel films have set pieces nearly every 20 minutes, this film really has three main set pieces. The initial confrontation and escape with the military, the full-blown battle with helicopters and tanks, and then the final showdown with Blonsky, who transforms into the Abomination. Coming back to it now, these scenes have really aged, especially the CG that is used during the daytime. Now granted, it was 2008 and we've come very far in VFX work in the last 10 years, and this certainly holds up a lot better than the 2003 Hulk film, but a lot of the CGI here makes it very much look like a video game. Everything does look very plasticky, especially the close-ups of Hulk and a lot of the helicopters and tanks. It's all just a bit hard to look at, especially with how good Hulk looked in Thor Ragnarok. These scenes do still deliver, however, the fun, bombarding action that you would expect from a Hulk film. You've got cars being used as boxing gloves, buildings crumbling, and the inevitable Hulk smash all here. Not to mention you're seeing fan favorite villain Abomination going toe to toe with the Hulk, even if Abomination is kind of shoehorned into the third act. I think having Tim Roth coming in as the villain is one of the best choices the film has going for it, although the film is a bit indecisive on whether General Ross is the villain or Abomination, who clearly is but does get sidelined quite a lot. And how about that tease for a sequel that we still have yet to see? Tim Blake Nelson as Samuel Stearns, who would have become the leader in a sequel, has yet to materialize thanks to distribution rights issues. Which is fine. I didn't think Stearns was written very well in this film. I think he was overly written with a lot of overly zany jokes that just don't land, and he reminded me a lot of that scientist in Amazing Spider-Man 2 that I know a lot of people hate. Who honestly knows if we'll ever see this story thread continue into the future, but in all honesty, I'm quite fine not knowing. The film does treat Bruce Banner with a lot of love and respect, mainly due to Edward Norton's uncredited rewrite of the script. And although I do really enjoy Edward Norton in the role of Banner, and he is a phenomenal actor, I do think the right choice was made with recasting him in Avengers with Mark Ruffalo. Mark Ruffalo just seems to capture the look and emotion of what Bruce Banner is really going through. Funny story, the director of the film actually wanted Ruffalo cast in this film, whereas Marvel wanted Edward Norton for name value. Funny how that turned out. The little glimpse that we get of the Lonely Man theme from the old TV show is fantastic, as well as the little cameo from Lou Ferrigno. It's a film that clearly has a lot of love for the Hulk character and mythos. And honestly, I actually really dig Liv Tyler as Betty Ross. I think she did a far better job than Jennifer Connelly did, and I'm really disappointed that we haven't seen more of Betty Ross in any future MCU films. Oh, and what is Ty Burrell doing in this film? Honestly, he's in a relationship with Betty Ross at one point in the film and then disappears completely about halfway through when Banner shows up and becomes involved. Like, honestly, what was all that about? Clearly there are a lot of teething issues with the MCU here and the older mentality of setting up things for sequels later on, especially as this film involves a lot more references to Iron Man and Captain America's super soldier serum. But that post-credit scene with Tony Stark is still a ton of fun. The Incredible Hulk is a fun, disposable Marvel film that introduced us to the world of the Hulk, with the best of the Hulk still yet to come. I really do hope that more elements from this film do pop up in the future. The Incredible Hulk gets a 6 out of 10 from me. Guys, I hope you like this review of The Incredible Hulk. Next up will be Iron Man 2, continuing my lead up to Avengers Infinity War, so stay tuned for more Marvel Cinematic Universe reviews. So stay right here for your Monofix. Bye guys!